right, so let's dive into this Secure 2.0 Act.
Okay.
You sent over like a ton of articles, research summaries, even some personal notes.
Right.
It seems like you're really trying to get a handle on this thing.
Right. Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
For anyone thinking about retirement.
Yeah.
No matter where you are in that journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is it really does impact everyone, from those just starting their careers to those already enjoying retirement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a sweeping piece of legislation
Okay.
with over 90 provisions aimed at making it easier and more advantageous to save for retirement.
Okay, over 90 provisions. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So before we even get into the specifics,
Sure.
can we just lay out what this Secure 2.0 Act actually is?
Yeah.
Where did it come from? What's the big idea?
You're right. It can be overwhelming. Secure 2.0 is essentially a sequel to the original Secure Act passed back in 2019. Think of it as Congress recognizing they needed to do even more to help people prepare for retirement.
So it's building on existing efforts. Makes sense. But what are some of the key themes we see emerging in Secure 2.0? What are they trying to accomplish?
From what I've seen in the materials you sent, there are a few clear goals.
Yeah.
First, they're trying to make it easier for younger people to start saving, even if they're burdened with student debt.
Right.
Second, they're encouraging people closer to retirement to really ramp up their savings with higher catch-up contribution limits. And third, they're simplifying rules and providing more flexibility for those already retired.
Yeah.
They're also trying to make it easier for small businesses to offer retirement plans.
Okay, that helps me wrap my head around it a little better. So let's break it down based on where someone is in their retirement journey. Let's say you're just starting out far from retirement. What are some of the key takeaways from Secure 2.0 that you should be paying attention to?
One of the most talked about provisions for younger workers is the student loan matching program. Starting in 2024, employers can choose to match your student loan payments with contributions to your retirement plan.
So instead of having to choose between paying down debt and saving for retirement, you can potentially do both. That's a game changer.
Exactly. It finally recognizes that student debt is a huge barrier for young people when it comes to saving for the future. It's like killing two birds with one stone.
I like that. Now, another thing that stood out to me in your notes was automatic enrollment in 401k plans. What's the story there?
Starting in 2025, new 401k and 403b plans will be required to automatically enroll eligible employees. This means you're automatically IN and have to opt OUT if you don't want to participate. Research shows this simple change significantly increases participation.
That's so smart. I know for me, personally, inertia can be a powerful force.
Yeah.
I'm much more likely to stay in something than I am to go out of my way to opt out.
It's human nature. Secure 2.0 is leveraging that to help people make better financial decisions. It's also recognizing that sometimes just getting started is the hardest part.
Okay, so we've got help with student loans and automatic enrollment to get you started. Now, what about staying on track? Life throws curveballs, especially when you're younger.
That's where the emergency savings accounts linked to retirement plans come in. Starting in 2024, you can have an emergency fund directly linked to your 401k or 403b with the first 4 withdrawals each year penalty-free.
So you're less likely to raid your retirement funds if an unexpected expense pops up.
Yeah.
That's a huge relief.
It is. It gives you a safety net without sacrificing your long-term savings goals.
Yeah.
And having that emergency fund easily accessible can make a big difference psychologically. It helps you feel more secure about putting money away for retirement.
All right. So Secure 2.0 seems to have a lot to offer those early in their careers.
Yeah.
But what about those who are nearing retirement, say in their late 50s or early 60s? What changes should they be aware of?
Well, one major change that affects everyone, but particularly those nearing retirement, is the increase in catch-up contributions. Starting in 2025, those aged 60 to 63 can contribute an additional $10,000 per year on top of the regular catch-up amount.
Wow.
This is indexed to inflation, so it will continue to grow over time.
Wow, that's significant. So even if you haven't been saving as much as you'd like, you still have a chance to boost your nest egg in those crucial years leading up to retirement.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool for catching up on savings.
Yeah.
But there's a catch. If your income exceeds $145,000, those extra catch-up contributions must be made on a Roth basis.
Hold on. Remind me, what does Roth basis mean again?
Good question. It means you pay taxes on the money you contribute NAW.
Got it.
but your withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
Right.
It's different from traditional contributions. Yeah.
Where you get the tax break up front, but pay taxes when you withdraw the money later.
Okay. That makes sense. So it's a trade-off, and the best option depends on your individual situation.
Exactly. But the good news is, with Secure 2.0, you have more options to choose from,
Right.
which can help you tailor your retirement saving strategy to your specific needs.
So we've covered those who are far from retirement and those who are getting closer. But what about those who are already retired? What does Secure 2.0 have in store for them?
One of the biggest changes for retirees is the increase in the required minimum distribution, RMD age.
Okay.
It's currently 73, but will increase to 75 in 2033.
Oh, wow.
This means your savings can potentially grow longer before you're required to start taking distributions.
That's great news for those who want to delay tapping into their retirement funds and let them continue to compound. But what happens if someone forgets to take their RMD?
Well, Secure 2.0 has good news there, too.
Okay.
The penalty for missing an RMD has been reduced from 50% to 25%.
And even 10% in some cases.
That's relief. I'm sure it takes some pressure off those who are managing their own retirement accounts.
It does. And there's another big change specifically for Roth 401ks. Starting in 2024, they'll no longer be subject to RMDs.
So they'll work just like Roth IRAs in that regard. That's a big simplification.
It is. And it gives retirees even more flexibility in managing their Roth 401k assets.
Right.
They can leave the money to grow tax-free for as long as they like. Or pass it on to their heirs.
Okay, so Secure 2.0 seems to have something for everyone no matter where they are in their retirement journey. But I know you said it also has implications for small businesses and the self-employed. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Of course. Secure 2.0 includes a number of provisions designed to make it easier and more affordable for small businesses to offer retirement plans. For example, they've expanded tax credits for startup and administrative costs. They've also introduced a new type of plan called a starter 401k, which is designed to be simpler and less expensive to administer.
That's great news for small business owners and their employees. Having access to a retirement plan at work can make a huge difference in people's long-term financial well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Secure 2.0 is recognizing that by making it easier for small businesses to provide these valuable benefits.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into Secure 2.0, but there's still more to explore. When we come back, we'll delve into some specific scenarios and answer some of the questions you sent us based on your own situation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dives into the Secure 2.0 Act. Now that we've laid the groundwork and understand the broad strokes of this legislation, let's zoom in on some of the specifics you flagged in your notes. There were a few questions you had, especially around the Roth accounts and how those are being affected.
Absolutely. It seems like you're really trying to grasp the nuances of Roth versus traditional contributions, and rightfully so. Secure 2.0 introduces some interesting changes that could have a significant impact on your retirement strategy.
Okay, so let's start with the big one that's generating a lot of buzz. The elimination of RMDs for Roth 401k starting in 2024. Can you walk us through what that means and why it's such a big deal?
Essentially, this puts Roth 401ks on par with Roth IRAs when it comes to RMDs. Previously, you were still required to take RMDs from your Roth 401k, even though those contributions were made with after-tax dollars. It was a bit of a head-scratcher for many people.
I can see why. So now with no RMDs, does that mean you can just let the money in your Roth 401k sit there and grow tax-free indefinitely?
That's right. And this can be a real game changer for tax planning and estate planning purposes. You have more flexibility to decide when you want to tap into those funds and potentially avoid being pushed into a higher tax bracket by forced withdrawals.
I see. So it allows for more strategic withdrawals in retirement? But how does this impact estate planning?
Well, if you don't need the money in your Roth 401k during your lifetime, you can leave it to your heirs and they can inherit it tax-free. It's a powerful tool for wealth transfer and can help minimize the tax burden on your beneficiaries.
Wow, that's a pretty significant benefit. Now, another change that caught my eye was the new rule regarding catch-up contributions for higher earners. Starting in 2026, if you earned over $145,000 the previous year, any catch-up contributions you make must be on a Roth basis. What's the thinking behind that?
It seems like Congress is trying to balance the scales a bit. Remember, Secure 2.0 increases catch-up contribution limits significantly, especially for those ages 60-63. So by requiring higher earners to make those contributions on a Roth basis, they're ensuring that everyone is contributing their fair share in taxes.
So for those higher earners, it means you won't get the immediate tax deduction you would with traditional pre-tax contributions? Instead, you'll get tax-free withdrawals in retirement. It's a trade-off, but which option is better?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The best choice for you depends on your individual circumstances, your current income, your expected tax bracket in retirement, and your overall financial goals. It's a conversation you should definitely have with a financial advisor to weigh the pros and cons.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's move on to those emergency savings accounts linked to retirement plans. I know you said this is a great way to prevent people from raiding their retirement funds for unexpected expenses, but are there any potential downsides we should be aware of?
You're right to be cautious. It's important to remember that these accounts have a relatively low contribution limit, $2,500 or even less as determined by your employer. So while it's a great safety net for smaller emergencies, it might not be sufficient for larger unexpected expenses.
That's a good point. And what about the withdrawals? Are there any restrictions or penalties?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the first 4 withdrawals each year are penalty-free. However, any withdrawals after that could be subject to the usual 10% penalty for early withdrawals from a retirement account. So it's important to view these accounts as a true emergency fund, not just a slush fund for any unexpected expense that comes along.
So be mindful and strategic about how you use it. Now, I want to touch on something else you highlighted in your notes, the expanded access to retirement plans for part-time workers. Can you explain how that's changing?
Currently, part-time employees need to work at least 500 hours for 3 consecutive years to be eligible to participate in their company's retirement plan. Secure 2.0 shortens that to 2 consecutive years, opening up retirement savings options sooner for those working part-time.
That's great. It acknowledges that the workforce is evolving with more people choosing or needing to work part-time, and they shouldn't be excluded from the benefits of saving for retirement.
Exactly. It's about making sure everyone has the opportunity to build a secure financial future, regardless of their work arrangement.
Now, another thing that I know a lot of people struggle with, and something you seemed curious about in your notes, is lost retirement accounts. Can you tell us a little more about that lost and found database that Secure 2.0 is creating? How will that work?
It's still in development, but the idea is to create a searchable database housed at the Department of Labor where people can track down lost 401ks or other retirement accounts. It's a surprisingly common problem, especially if you've changed jobs frequently or moved around a lot.
I can imagine. It's easy to lose track of things over time. So this database will essentially connect people with their lost savings.
That's the goal. It will streamline the process and help reunite people with their hard-earned money. It's a huge win for retirement savers.
Now, before we move on to our final section, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. Those small incentives employers can offer to encourage retirement plan participation. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it'll be effective?
It's a fascinating concept. Behavioral economics suggests that even small incentives can have a surprisingly large impact on our decisions. So a $25 gift card or a small bonus could be all it takes to nudge someone in the right direction and get them started with saving.
It makes you wonder why more companies haven't tried this before. I mean, who doesn't love a little bonus?
You'd be surprised. But with Secure 2.0 explicitly allowing these incentives, I think we'll see more employers experimenting with them. It could be a game changer, especially for attracting younger workers who are more motivated by immediate rewards.
Okay, that's all super interesting. But we've got one more deep dive section to go where we'll wrap up this exploration of Secure 2.0 and highlight some additional resources and insights for you. Don't miss it. We're back for like the final stretch of our deep dive into Secure 2.0. We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But you had some like really insightful questions in your notes.
Right.
Especially when it comes to the impact on small businesses and self-employed individuals.
Sure.
Let's unpack those a bit further.
It's a great area to focus on because Secure 2.0 really tries to level the playing field.
Yeah.
For smaller operations, we've talked about starter 401ks being a good option for businesses that don't have a plan yet.
Right.
But what about those already using simple IRAs or SEP IRAs?
That's exactly what I was wondering. My notes mentioned some changes there, particularly around the types of contributions allowed.
You're spot on. One significant change is that both simple IRAs and SEP IRAs can now offer Roth contributions before Secure 2.0.
Yeah.
They were limited to traditional pre-tax contributions only.
So this opens up more flexibility, especially for those who might be in a higher tax bracket in retirement and want to take advantage of tax-free withdrawals later on.
Precisely. It allows for more tailored retirement planning, which is crucial for small business owners and the self-employed, who often have unique income fluctuations and tax situations.
Speaking of tailoring plans, my notes also highlighted some changes to contribution limits for simple IRAs. specifically for businesses with 25 or fewer employees. What's the scoop there?
Starting in 2024, these smaller businesses can increase both the employee elective deferral limit and the catch-up contribution limit by 10%, bringing them to 110% of the standard limits.
So it's like a little bonus for those smaller operations, making them more competitive in attracting and retaining talent?
Exactly. It helps them keep pace with larger companies that might have more resources to offer generous retirement benefits. It's a smart move to support small businesses and their employees.
Now let's talk about incentives for those businesses to actually set up these plans.
Yeah.
You mentioned expanded tax credits earlier, but can you remind us how those work?
Secure 2.0 significantly sweetens the deal for small employers starting new retirement plans.
Okay.
The tax credit for startup costs jumps from 50% up to a whopping 100%.
Wow.
For businesses with 50 or fewer employees. With a maximum credit of $5,000, that's a big motivator to finally take the plunge.
100%. That's incredible. And I remember reading about an additional tax credit for employer contributions, too.
You've got a great memory. There's an additional credit of up to $1,000 per employee for eligible employer contributions.
Okay.
But this one phases out as the number of employees goes up, really targeting those smaller businesses.
Okay, so it's a multi-pronged approach to incentivize small businesses to offer retirement plans, making it easier and more affordable for both the employer and the employee. Pretty smart, if you ask me.
I agree. It's clear that Secure 2.0 recognizes the vital role small businesses play in our economy and is taking steps to ensure their employees have the opportunity to save for a secure retirement.
Well, we've covered a ton of information in this deep dive, from student loan matching to catch-up contributions, from emergency savings accounts to changes impacting small businesses and retirees. I know it can feel overwhelming, but what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
The most important thing is to recognize that Secure 2.0 is ultimately about empowering you to take control of your retirement planning. Whether you're just starting out nearing retirement or already enjoying your golden years, this legislation provides tools and opportunities to make your savings grow and work harder for you.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, and the more you understand about Secure 2.0, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions about your financial future. And there are resources out there to help you.
Definitely. The IRS website has a wealth of information on Secure 2.0, including FAQs and helpful guides. And of course, talking to a financial advisor can help you personalize your strategy and make sure you're taking full advantage of everything this new law has to offer.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of resources, you sent us an article that stood out to me, the one from Kiplinger, about the Savers Match.
Oh, yeah.
Starting in 2027, this replaces the Savers credit with a direct federal matching contribution to your retirement account, which is huge, especially for lower income savers.
That article does a fantastic job of breaking down how it works and who qualifies. It's definitely worth checking out if you're in that income bracket. It's just another example of how Secure 2.0 is trying to make retirement savings more accessible and attainable for everyone.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Secure 2.0 Act. We've explored its key provisions, unpacked its impact on different stages of life, and even touched on some helpful resources to guide you further. It's a complex law, but hopefully we've shed some light on its most important aspects, leaving you feeling empowered and informed.
Remember, retirement planning is a journey, not a destination. Secure 2.0 provides a roadmap with new routes and options to consider. Stay engaged, do your research, and talk to the experts to craft the best path for you.
One thing's for sure, the future of retirement planning is evolving, and Secure 2.0 is leading the charge. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And if you found this exploration helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for more fascinating deep dives into topics that matter to you.